A rather powerful storm in eastern Canada has driven a pattern change across the United States, and it sets up the possibility that we might have a bit of a nor'easter to deal with next weekend. So we will, of course, be discussing this at great length tonight, along with the weather for the week ahead. On this Sunday night on a holiday weekend, Joe and Joe Weather Show. And of course, the Joe and Joe Weather Show, as it is brought to you by every night, Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. Mulch, topsoil, and sand, and pretty soon you may have the need for some salt this coming winter. So get over to Omni, 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. The website is...
It is OmniTrueValue.com.
And what better way to watch the weather minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, month by month, and year by year with your Tempest by WeatherFlow weather station. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you do make a purchase on the Tempest website, be it the weather station or anything else that they have to offer, because they have lots of gadgets and gizmos in smart weather fashion, use the coupon code I want a weather station, because if you do,
you will get 10 big % off.
And here we are. It's a Sunday, Mr. Rayo. Okay, so as we've been doing this show, especially since I moved down here to Georgia, in North Georgia, and discovered the weather here in the mountains, we play the seasonal game as to who could get to 50 first, who gets to 45, 40, 35, 30. So I will tell you, Joe, that I've beaten you down almost to the freezing mark, because this morning 33.6
oh my
was
God.
my low this morning. It was a cold day today. I didn't have the heat on last night, and I woke up this morning and it was 60 in the house. So I had to turn the fireplace on and bring the heat on. And I don't think it got out of the 50s. I think we got to 58 or 59, and we had for here, because it doesn't really get windy here very much, but it was pretty busy today on the wind. We had gusts into the 30s for a good part of this afternoon. Thankfully it was sunny, but it was a cold Sunday morning.
Well, today was a day where we had a lot of instability. It was very chilly in the upper atmosphere. I know that there were some who were expecting a beautiful sunny day on your Sunday after a rather dreary and wet Saturday.
No, this was a self-destruct sunshine type of day. I mean, that we knew since late last week. You can't have a raging upper air storm sitting in eastern Canada with deep troughing all the way down the east coast and not get self-destructive sunshine.
Absolutely. Cyclonic curvature, too much to ask for. Now tomorrow, well, the winds will be backing off a bit, be more stability, and probably tomorrow we'll see a lot more of the way of sunshine for the holiday. I don't even know what you call the holiday tomorrow anymore, so I'm not even going to get into it. But it's a holiday, so
it is.
I know in Canada, it's Thanksgiving in Canada, so.
It is tomorrow?
Yeah, their Thanksgiving always coincided with our October holiday, so.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. I know Thanksgiving in Canada always came early. I didn't know that it coincided with Columbus Day for tomorrow. So now we've got with this pattern the way it is, and actually, why don't I do this? Let me just welcome everybody tonight that on the chat board, our regulars that are here, almost like religion they're here, Joe. And we appreciate that. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. For those of you who are new, or maybe lurking in the background, or thinking, "Hey, maybe I want to join the conversation." Well, subscribe to my YouTube channel and use that to get in there and just be part of the crowd. And if you like the Joe and Joe Weather Show, hit the like button. And make sure you turn your notifications on because you never want to miss us. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. And normally we're off on Friday and Saturday so that Joe and I can recharge our batteries. But in case there ever is a storm on a Friday or a Saturday, we have been known to jump on board and do an extra show or two. And if we ever wind up doing that, we certainly will let you know. So, what I wanted to do was I'm going to bring up the chart of the North Atlantic Oscillation because it's in a place where 3 months from now the snow lovers would probably be dancing in the streets to an extent, although it's never a guarantee. But we are almost 2 standard deviations, or about to be 2 standard deviations negative on the NAO come next weekend. That's a large departure from the normal, which is at the 0 line. And when it's positive, you've got lower pressures up in the North Atlantic, and that usually means a faster flow across the United States from west to east. When it's negative, the way it is now, things tend to get a bit blocky, and weather systems take tracks that are further south. And we're seeing this, I think, going to be playing out this week with the setup that we have in the eastern part of the United States. So, I don't want to go too off the wall at this point because we're still about 5 or 6 days away. But it does look like that we're going to have to be dealing with some sort of low that's going to develop and be just offshore with a raw northeast flow setting up for next weekend, and rain and maybe some wind, and who knows what else will go with it. But it does seem like that's where we're going with this in the coming days.
Yeah, and I can't even remember. I cannot even remember a weekend where we've had no unsettled weather. And usually, in a lot of cases, this would be if this happens, this transpires next weekend. I think it's going to be like the 4th or 5th consecutive lousy Saturday. It seems like if it's Saturday, it's got to be it's got to be showery or rainy. And I don't know what it is, Joe, but that looks like Janet Dunn on the chat board. 5 weekends in a row wet. It is getting kind of ridiculous, but we're stuck in this pattern here where on the weekend and during the week it has been very, very nice. We had 4 beautiful, outstandingly dry, warm, low humidity days this past week, and get to the weekend and boom, everything falls into a dreary type of.
Yeah, and this storm system this weekend, which was really the non-tropical storm, wound up absorbing what was Tropical Storm Philippe, and went up east of Cape Cod, and then kind of hooked back into eastern Maine and Atlantic Canada, and now has moved its way, rotated back westward into southern Quebec province. But it has been a big heavy rain producer. A New Brunswick, Canada guy on the chat board, Joe, says lots of heavy rain and gusty winds where he is, but no power outages at this time, and that's good to hear. But oftentimes it's a situation like we saw late last week where we have, and sometimes it does involve a tropical system where it just sort of alters the pattern a bit. And I think that's what we're seeing this week. The outcome of this storm system, this one in eastern Canada, is very important because it really is the driver of everything that's going to be going on all this week, and it's going to have an impact on how the system at the end of this coming week, how that all evolves. So it is a key player, no doubt.
Yeah, no question about that. And as I've often said, if you have a system like what we're looking at right now, and it's deep enough, even after it tries to move on out, if another system comes along a few days later, it's like that system falls into a hole, so to speak, and the whole process begins anew. And that looks like the case for next weekend. Big on, if you look at the 500 millibar map, and I'm sure we will in a few moments, it's a huge upper level disturbance over Quebec, Canada. And that system actually kind of almost retrogresses in a way as we move through the first half of the week. And then just as that begins to pull on out, guess what? Another system comes rolling up toward us from the Central Plain states and kind of wants to take that system's place over the Great Lakes and into the Northeast for next Saturday and Sunday.
Adam Lowe on the chat board saying at this rate we would have used up all the negative NAO for the winter this fall. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. I mean, I know for winter weather lovers and snow lovers who follow these things closely, it would seem to be the case that, oh, we're getting it now, so that means we're going to use it all up, and we won't have anything left for the winter. It's not like it's a bank. Okay, you're just seeing, people are just responding to the general randomness and chaos that is the world of weather. So I actually would argue the opposite. I would say that the fact that we have a negative NAO that has been that actually went negative around the 15th of September, and now has coupled with this positive Pacific North America index, which means you get troughing in the east and ridging in the west. I would argue that seeing it like this now is probably a favorable sign that it might be something that persists for a long period of time. It'll ebb and flow. If you look on the chart that I have up, it actually, after it reaches its peak negativity next weekend, it actually rises very, very quickly back to the neutral line. And I would point out that oftentimes when you see the NAO rise like this, where it rises rapidly from a strong negative position to the zero line, oftentimes that means that there's a big storm developing somewhere. And that would be, I would say, also around the 22nd or so of October, if you want to write that date down as well. And let's see what comes of that. Doesn't mean that the storm is in the east. It could be in the Midwest. It could be in the plains, whatever it is. But it does suggest some big pressure changes are going to occur after next weekend. So a lot going on. Very, very active. No question that this is also a very, very busy pattern that we're in. And I'll tell you something. If we do wind up with a system at the end of next week, at the end of this coming week and next weekend, it's probably going to be another one that brings some sizable rainfalls to some places that don't need it.
Yeah, and we were discussing off air before the show started. There are some differences. For example, the GFS has that upper low much further to the east as opposed to, let's say, the Icon and the European, which kind of by Saturday afternoon, it's still way back over into the western part of the Great Lakes, over northern Wisconsin. And you've got a front maybe through the Ohio Valley and a warm front that might be across our area, but the main push of precipitation may hold off until later Saturday and on into Saturday night and Sunday, whereas the GFS is further east. And as you point out, Joe, first thing on Saturday morning, you wake up and it's raining everywhere. And the GFS has also been suggesting on some runs that indeed we may see quite a bit of rainfall with this impending system. And we also have, on top of everything else, we have some kind of a coastal low that is apparently trying to form off of the mid-Atlantic or southeastern coast, which may be getting involved with all of this again over the weekend as well. So in a word, next weekend certainly looks unsettled, but in terms of specifics, in terms of the amount of precipitation we may see, in terms of the time when the heaviest rains may come, when it moves in, when it moves out, these are things that we'll have to wait probably until sometime mid or late week for us to answer with some certainty or surety.
Right. We will know all those things, Joe. We will know in the fullness of time.
In
And
fact, I'll tell you right now, we'll have a very definite idea about all of those all the answers to all of those questions probably by this time next week.
right on the satellite loop, the Canadian storm is a standout. I mean, this upper low and surface low. The surface low is going to weaken quite a bit. It's already occluded and past its peak, but the upper air storm system is very impressive. You can see the large circulation that extends all the way back to the western Great Lakes, all the way down into North Carolina on the south side. And there's this big arm between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland that's coming over the top and sweeping around it, which is the frontal part of this that's lifting up. And the other thing I want to point out, too, which is kind of interesting, because I think this was absent much of last winter, but we have a very predominant subtropical jet here that has developed coming out of the Pacific. There might be a tropical storm or two that will be on the Pacific side that will be heading into Mexico, and some of that moisture is eventually going to move on the other side and perhaps get strung along across the Gulf states later this week. But that's a pretty active subtropical jet. It'll be interesting to see if this is a feature that we're going to be, if this is truly the El Nino year that is being advertised by some. It would say that yes, this the subtropical jet might be a bit on the busy side this coming through this fall and into this winter.
Well, I pointed out on Facebook, I said, what a difference a year makes. You're absolutely right, Joe. Things are, last year at this time, a drought here in the Hudson Valley was starting to get very serious. And I remember asking Renata. Renata and I were at a restaurant. The waitress last year came over and asked if I was done with my ice cube. I mean, that's how bad.
Right.
That's how dry it was a year ago. And here, a year later, we've just gone through the second wettest September, and we just went through yet another major wet weather maker yesterday, and we're talking about another possible round of wet weather for next weekend. And I don't know about, I don't remember specifically, but you're right. I don't think we had what we're seeing now, that very active subtropical jet across the southern tier of the United States, which has been in part responsible for bringing up all of this moisture into our neck of the woods and causing all of this wet weather. It was a whole different story last year.
And I said this a couple of times last week. There's been a general absence of vortexes in eastern Canada for quite a while, and certainly going back to last winter. It's been a long time since we've seen a wrapped up upper low sitting in eastern Canada. It has not been part of the general weather pattern, I would say, for the last I would say going back maybe for the last couple of years, the way things have shaped up. So we seem to be going in. We seem to be moving now into the heart of the autumn months, and beyond that, in a far different place than where we've been in prior recent years. By the way, most of the country today had a beautiful day of sunshine. The South Atlantic states, most of the Gulf states, back up all through the plains. Few exceptions in the Southwest and along the immediate Gulf Coast and over Florida, but much of the country today enjoyed a fairly nice day. There are some showers. There's actually some heavy rain going on in north central New York coming in off of Lake Ontario, because this would be a big lake effect event. If this were a month from now, I guarantee you this would probably be a fairly big lake effect event in western New York and in north central New York, with the winds coming, blowing the long way across Lake Ontario and also coming off of the east side of Lake Erie. So a little early, but again, this is an interesting, maybe an interesting hint of where we're going down the road. Some scattered showers in parts of eastern New York and into Vermont. Otherwise, not much else on the radar. Going all the way down into northern Florida, some heavier downpours and scattered around in South Florida. We've got some precip aloft in Indiana and Ohio. Maybe a few light showers there. Also up on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, seeing a few light. I'm sorry, the Lower Peninsula of Michigan, seeing the on the northern part of the upper part of the Lower Peninsula, seeing some showers, and we've got some showers in the southwest and also in parts of South Texas. No severe weather, Mr. Rayo, for the next 3 days. No severe weather being indicated by the Storm Prediction Center, so that's easy enough. But take a look at WPC's rainfall forecast map. And this takes us through next Sunday night, Joe. They've got 2.5 inches of rain being indicated for much of north central and northeastern Pennsylvania, the Hudson Valley, northern New Jersey, Long Island, New York City, western Connecticut, and a fairly large area of 1.5 inches plus, where the southern flank goes down to Delaware and Maryland, and then back across the lower lakes into the northern plains, and some big rainfall amounts in Iowa, northern Missouri, Illinois, around the Chicago area, southern Wisconsin, northern Indiana, and also some big rains in South Georgia, North Florida, the Florida Panhandle, and some touching into southeastern Louisiana. They're under an extreme drought in southeast Louisiana. It's a very, very serious situation there because of the fact that they get their water from the Mississippi River, and the river levels are so low that the water from the salt water from the Gulf of Mexico is penetrating far further inland than it normally does, and that is impacting the availability of drinking water in southern Louisiana. And also, we've got some heavy rains setting up in the Pacific Northwest. So, got the new GFS, which I did a quick look, and it looked a lot like the old GFS, so it's not too much difference between the two runs. But, Mr. Ray, I want to just show everybody. I'll go to the North America view so we could bring up what the upper air looks like. And, look at this look how wrapped up this upper low is. Sitting this evening, it seems that the upper low is just kind of, it just jumped northwestward between James Bay and, say, Plattsburgh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, it's like 12 contours closed. And look how no wonder I got to 33 this morning. Look how far south the circulation of that upper low, bringing air from Canada all the way down into northern Florida.
It's, as I said a little while ago, I mean, that thing is really, it's like a stem winder. It's like as Tex Antoine used to make reference. The one thing I loved about Tex was that he used to talk about the weather maps, the National Weather Service or the U.S. Weather Bureau maps in the New York Times, which always showed isobars. And he said, if you look at the weather map in tomorrow's New York Times, it's kind of like looking at a wristwatch where you turned the inner spring too much. That's basically what we're looking at here with this upper low. I mean, this is my God, it predominates across almost half of the United States, centered, of course, up in the Quebec, northern New York State region. But this really is wound up. And just as this begins to unwind and pull away, that system that you're seeing along the west coast of Canada is going to begin to drop into the nation's midsection and kind of like take over where this system left off. And that'll be in time for next weekend.
Yes, the chairman, Scott Briller, is our first hit of the Super Chat tip jar tonight, and he also pretty much wrote the first weather commercial for our channel. Joey says, I don't care if it's the NAO or the EPO or the MJO, nothing is more reliable than Joe and Joe.
Yes, thank you.
That is Quite the jingle. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Right, following Scott's super chat hit and comment, Renata chiming in with, and she's absolutely right. People are starting to get annoyed that it's raining every weekend here in the tri-state area, and it looks like if we're not even out of this weekend yet completely, and we're already talking about next weekend going into the proverbial circular file as well.
Yes, La Toilette. Very blocky upper air look here. When you look at this across the Pacific side and then across the U.S., you've got a dominant, three really dominant upper lows. One that's just on the northern part of the Gulf of Alaska, just sort of touching the northern Aleutians, with a trough down at about, well, maybe about 140, 145. The deep upper low in the eastern part of the United States, which really can't go anywhere because there's a strong upper low that's northwest of the Azores. And with respect to that negative NAO, you can see where the higher than normal pressures are. They're pretty much in the North Atlantic and over southern Greenland, and that's displaced the jet stream far south of where it normally would be for this time of year. And that upper low goes nowhere. I mean, it just actually goes westward almost to Sault Ste. Marie, and it's still sitting there between James Bay and the northern part of Lake Huron on Wednesday. Now, the fact that it's not getting out of the way is forcing, you've got energy coming in from the Pacific into the Pacific Northwest. Well, guess what? It can't move straight across because there's a blocking high that develops in north central Canada, of all places. And you still have the upper low on Thursday in roughly a spot between James Bay and Plattsburgh. So the next energy has to go underneath it. And that's what it does. And the lead upper low goes out to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, which forces all that energy to sort of, cross the Ohio Valley. And, there's a cutoff low that forms in Pennsylvania and moves off the New Jersey coast by late next weekend. And, of course, that hangs around because that can't, again, there's so much blockiness, Joe, that part of that moves out, and then another cutoff forms in Ohio and Indiana, sort of swings down to the bottom of the trough for next week. I mean, this is just it's not a nice pattern to be in, even though this week itself, tomorrow and through Friday, other than the occasional scattered stuff that might happen. I mean, you might have maybe, in inland tomorrow, there still might be the odd pop-up sprinkle or two. Tuesday, there's like a little upper trough that goes by. But other than that, this week itself it's not going to be bad. It's going to be okay. It's just that it's waiting to get, it's waiting for some room to open up. And when it does, instead of everything sort of pulling out, you've got all this new energy coming in and creating a whole new mess for next weekend and beyond that.
Yeah, Adam Lowe says, I find this hard to believe, but he says on the chat board that since June 1st, I'm assuming that he's talking about the tri-state area. He said, since June 1st, we've had only 3 weekends that have seen no rain here in Rhode Island. So that would count also as the Northeast, at least in the tri-state area. It has been ridiculous. Just think back to July, all those rainy spells of weather that we had, especially in Vermont, and it's been hard to come by to string together more than a couple of days of dry weather. It's been one after another. By
the way, after this finally resolves itself somehow and gets out of the way, if late in the forecast period, guess what? Another deep trough comes into the eastern part of the United States for the weekend of the 21st and 22nd. This is when the NAO goes neutral from being strongly negative. So perhaps the models, at least initially, if this was right, and of course we're talking a long ways away, but without looking at it, I'm going to guess that there's probably a strong cold front that is involved with this on the weekend of the 21st and 22nd. But we'll take a look now and see what it does. And on that note, let's go to the U.S. view.
Alfred K. Phillips on the chat board. And, of course, he's our friend up in Alaska. And he's asking, where's my sub-zero Arctic temperatures?
Well, not yet. Is it too early for you, Alfred? I'm not. Well, you're on the north slope, so I would imagine it would happen early. So you're telling us that that hasn't happened yet, I'm guessing. So we'll see if Alfred responds to that. Here's what the surface looks like. It actually, except for the upper low and some rain coming into the Pacific Northwest on Monday, much of the weather across the United States looks pretty good. There's some scattered showers in the central Appalachians with that cold, unstable air. There's a hurricane on the Pacific side, Lydia, that's going to be going into Mexico, coming in from the southwest. But here in the east, weather stays reasonable. Temperatures will probably come up a little bit. Not a lot, but they should come up a little bit this week, particularly, I think, Wednesday, starting Tuesday and then Wednesday and Thursday. Now, while all that's happening, of course, remember, we've got this energy coming into the Pacific Northwest, and you see that starts to play out on Wednesday in the Rockies with rain and even some mountain snows, and you've got a low there in southern Nebraska. There's also going to be with Lydia now coming in to Mexico. I said earlier with that subtropical jet, you're going to see that translate out into the Gulf of Mexico, and indeed it does, where you've got this areas of heavy rain in South Texas and Southeast Louisiana and into the Florida Panhandle. Now, that's all going to pass to the south. I may actually just get clipped by the northern edge of that on Thursday, and I hope we do, because it did rain here. It did rain here, Joe, Friday night into early Saturday morning. I don't think it was more than maybe a couple of hundredths, and it was only for a couple of hours. But that's the one day of rain in the last 20 or 21 days around here. I mean, it's been gorgeous most of the time, bone dry, low humidity. It's been just great fall weather. But much of this rain is going to pass off the southeast coast and then go out. But you see the storm now in the plains from Nebraska. Remember, it can't go north because you got the blockiness. You've got a big high sitting to its north. This would be something in the wintertime that would be somewhat. I think it would be an interesting situation. Your surface low goes into Indiana and Ohio and dies out. You have a dying primary in eastern Ohio. Secondary forms off just along the Virginia coast, and then you see it transfers it all to a coastal low there that's east of New Jersey. Part of it goes out, an upper low and a surface low. This is now Sunday morning. It's got a 9? It's like a 993-ish low southeast of Atlantic City, with not too shabby a pressure gradient either. And then it starts to pull out on Monday as that big high comes in behind it. Now let's break the mystery down. Of course, the trough on the bottom part of the trough lags, so you got another surface low that forms there off Virginia middle of next week, but who knows if that's right or not. And here's the cold front with the next deep trough, and this would be for around the 21st or so. So it's got some sort of strong trough and cold front for that weekend. And of course, we still have to make sure that the model does occasionally produce a late season tropical storm, and it actually has a hurricane coming out of the northwest Caribbean and moving into the eastern Gulf of Mexico towards Florida toward the end of the forecast period. So there's that. Again, this is a pattern that's going to keep us on our toes. I will give you that.
And our friend up in Alaska, Joe, on the chat board. Just missed his message here. Alfred K. Phillips says 22 degrees Fahrenheit here. He says, or at least he claims, it's supposed to be minus 30 Fahrenheit by now. So if he's right, the temperatures where he is about 50 degrees above normal. He's talking about super warm Arctic weather right now.
Well, let's see. Let's go to Alaska on tropical tidbits, and let's see on the thermodynamics for the 2-meter temperature anomaly. And well, no, Alfred, you might be a little early with this, because I mean, I'm looking here, at least from the anomaly, the temperatures on the northern part of Alaska toward the north slope have actually been running a little bit below average. there's a sliver of above normal right on the coast, and then
Point Barrow.
in Barrow, yeah. But just inland, it's colder than normal, and western Alaska is actually below normal temperature wise. But the anomalies are also showing much above normal temperatures in over the Arctic Ocean. Not the ocean water temperatures, but the air temperatures the anomalies are all above normal. Um, no, normally, it does go statewide above normal around the 15th, which corresponds to the deep low in the east, and that makes sense because if you're going to have a coastal storm and a nor'easter set up next weekend, you're probably going to have a ridge in the west that's going to go all the way up into the Canadian Northwest, and yeah, so then that would make sense that Alaska would go above normal temperatures next weekend, if that's the case. So pretty interesting. And as far as precip is concerned, well, I know the map that matters to everybody is the total snowfall. So I don't know what this is with respect to normal. So that's the thing. I mean, it just.
Well, Joe Z says northern Alaska is not really all that cold. Right now in Barrow, cloudy skies, 29 degrees.
Okay. Well, that's not too bad. I was 33, so I was almost as cold as Barrow, Alaska is right now.
Yeah.
I was 33 this morning. Um, Not a whole lot of snow forecast for Alaska over the next 2 weeks.
Did you wake up this morning? Did you wake up this morning, Joe, like that old Daffy Duck cartoon where he wakes up and he looks at his feet and they're both encased in ice cubes?
Well, it wasn't quite like that, but I was wrapped up like a sausage in my comforter.
Yeah.
And I had a blanket over the comforter, so I was all. Took me a while to get myself out of that tight wrapping. Hurricane Lydia. Well, I'm sorry, Tropical Storm Lydia. It's not quite a hurricane. They're almost there. 17.9 north and 112.7 west. It's moving northward and it's going to turn northeastward, and they're forecasting it to become a hurricane, making landfall on the coast of Mexico, well south of Baja. I'm probably not that far from Acapulco. Let me see what they've got as a reference point here on the advisory. Okay, let's see. So it's 390 miles southwest of the southern tip of the Baja California, and 480 miles west-southwest of La Isla Marias, Mexico. I have no clue. 70-mile-an-hour winds. Hurricane watches are up for that part of the Mexican coast. Islas Marias to Playa Perula to Mazatlan. Mazatlan, I know. Tropical storm watch from Mazatlan to Bahia Tepehuya. Okay, and from Manzanillo, which I know, to Playa Perula. Okay. I'm trying, okay? Give me an A for effort here, folks. I'm trying. And as far as they're not strengthening this to a major hurricane, they are. Let's see. What are they doing here on the strength? They take it to 80 knots, so they get it to about a Cat 2 before landfall, and then again, all that moisture comes out the other side in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's why you saw what WPC saw with all that rain. There's a new tropical depression that is formed also, and that one is to the east of Lydia, and this is forecast to become a tropical storm and move inland. It's just offshore, become a tropical storm and move inland relatively quickly, sometime Monday night or early Tuesday morning. So I don't expect that to become anything of consequence. Okay, so here we are. We are of consequence here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Do you have Briller Jeopardy tonight?
I do believe I do.
You do? Well,
yes.
Have at it. Leon Probitsky just banged the tip jar, Joe. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated. He's got one of those little Android-y things. Try again, he says. Okay, let's have at it. It's Briller Jeopardy time, so everybody on the chat board gets to play along. Are we ready?
I'm just looking. Oh, here it is. Here we go. On Briller Jeopardy, on this Briller Jeopardy, we have the average high temperature in October for the following 5 cities. And we will start with Joe's favorite city because he lives so close to it, Atlanta, Georgia. The average high temperature in October. Joe?
Oh, I don't know. I will
You know the
say
average high temperature in Atlanta in October
I don't
is?
pay attention to what's going on in Atlanta. I always know they're 5 degrees warmer than me. I'll say for the month of October, I will say, because it's the beginning to the end, I'll say 69.
Yeah.
I'm too low?
Yes, you're too low.
Okay. So Leon Probitsky says 74. Michael McGuire says 74. Johnny Quest says 73.
They both got it right on the nose.
They did? Well, that was
74.
quick.
74 degrees.
And Frank R. said 74 too. I'll leave it to you to check the numbers of what the chat board does while I struggle with all of this.
Okay.
Next.
Here's Fred and Ethel Mertz's favorite city. They almost won a trip to
Honolulu.
Honolulu.
Honolulu, land of Goshen. Average high?
In October, yes.
83.
That's a little too cool.
Okay. I'm feeling low today. The 33.6 this morning got to me.
Well, Michael McGuire got it right smack on the nose. 87.
87.
87 degrees.
Wow. Very good. Chatboard folks are doing a lot better than I am. Ruben Fairchild. Oh my God. Ruben Fairchild is on the he's on the chat board. Oh my.
Oh my God. How long has it been, Ruben? And it's not Mr. Ruben Fairchild anymore.
It's just Ruben Fairchild. Oh, good Lord. I am like stunned. Joe, absolutely. I'm shocked and stunned. Okay? I'm not just shocked. I'm shocked and stunned.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we could give him the Ruben Fairchild Award.
Yes, I think we can.
Next.
How about this city where the Jets pulled off a victory today in the mile-high city of Denver. Average high in October in Denver, Colorado.
Denver is tough. That's because they're all over the place. Oh, God, I don't know. I have no idea. 60?
No, Joe, again, you're running way too low.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
But Rain-X 12 got it on the nose, 67.
Well, that's good to hear. By the way, Ruben Fairchild says, he's come back, and of course he starts off in perfect form. You guys need to update your set. Okay, Ruben, I'll tell you what. Buy me a new house, and we'll update the set. All right?
Oh.
You're gonna wish you didn't come back after if you give.
Some things never change.
No, they don't.
How about Boston? The average high temperature in October in Beantown.
I'll say 64.
Oh, now you're a little on the warm side, Joe.
That's what I figured. I did that on purpose.
Okay.
Well,
Latex, you're way too cold at 50.
Michael McGuire said 59.
But Michael Azera got it on the nose, 62.
62. Well, I wasn't that far off.
No, you weren't. You were just a little warm, that's all.
Yeah.
Last one, Joe. The Windy City, Chicago.
Boston 64. I will say 59.
No. A little too cool.
A little low.
A little low.
I'm a little low.
Yeah.
Well, Frank R says 61, and so does Paul Roman.
Patrick Dorsey got it right on the nose at 64.
Oh, we have a new person here, Joe. I like this name, Bella Lugrisi. Instead of Bella Lugosi, he's Bella Lugrisi. And he says 17 Celsius, which translates to 62, 63?
Yeah, well, what is
Something
it?
like that. 59 is 15. So 16 is 60 and 61. So 17 is 62. 62, 63. And what was the answer?
64.
64. Oh, and Miss Fowlerite got 63. Awesome.
And John Millander had 63.
And 63. Okay. All right. I have nothing else to add other than I'm wearing my Giants sweatshirt because it's useful. Okay, because it's keeping me warm, and for no other reason. Although
Well,
it's probably also in shame.
I'm wearing my Mets sweatshirt, but you want to see how useful this has been for me, Joe? What year is this? Is 2023? Well, check this out.
What does that say? The champions of 2000. Well, I mean, how many times have you worn it in the last 22 years?
I've worn it
23 years.
I wear it just because it keeps me nice and warm, but
well, that's all it does.
All it does. 23 years. 23 years. They've been nationally champions exactly 2 times.
Yeah, well, what can you do, right?
Yeah.
All right, tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show on a Sunday night, brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. Use the coupon code I want a weather station, and if you do, you will get
10% off.
Omni True Value Hardware, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Everything you need to make your home look great. And also remember, they got mulch, topsoil, and sand. And this winter, it's salt, salt, salt. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. The best prices anywhere, especially on salt. The website is
OmniTrueValue.com. And I guess we'll see you all tomorrow night at 7:35. And thanks again to the chairman and to Leon Probitsky for hitting Super Chat on this Sunday night, Joe.
Yes, and a welcome to Bella Lugrisi, one of the new members of the chat board. And Ruben Fairchild hasn't said anything since I told him to go out and buy me a house. So maybe I'll be hearing from his real estate agent to let me know what kind of house he bought me. Okay? Sounds like a plan?
Yes.
Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those of you who are listening to us as on YouTube Music as a podcast, thank you for being here, and we will see you tomorrow. I love this guy, Bella Lugrisi. I think that's creative. That to me is like, this guy's creative. He came up with something really, really cool. And Bela Lugosi, he made his career out of playing Dracula, the original Dracula, back in the early 1930s when the movie came out. So
Bela Lugosi is saying, let's get to 100 likes. And indeed, we're only 4 likes away from 100. So come on, folks. I mean, before we sign off, is there anybody out there who has not yet hit
I can tell you Ruben Fairchild hasn't hit the like button.
Ruben Fairchild probably hit the thumbs down button, or would prefer to hit. He has something to say about see, we hit 100. So there you go.
Yes, Joe gets to ring the bell. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Excuse me. I'm still at 99.